It's like I shine a light on what they really need to know. And it's almost like it gets rid of all the fluff and all the overthinking. Sometimes I have people come to me with actual questions of, should I do A or should I do B? And so it's really important to know that it'll shine the light on what you most need to know, but it's not going to tell you what to do. It's up to them to decide which one feels the best. Or, they still might need to take the non-ideal option based on whatever journey they're on. They may still need to learn another lesson. So it's not my job to really tell them, oh, you should do this. I might tell them, this energetically feels a little lighter, but which one is their soul really needing? And
take the time to remind yourself that it all starts inside yourself. Wake up feeling stuck every day, then you gotta realize that it's all in your mindset. Read about that meditation, you go get around to it, you just haven't had the time. Yeah, I bet. Best thing that you could invest in is you. Could have the results or could have the excuse. Only one life, so take care of what you choose. And I ain't preaching, I'm just telling you the truth. Wake up.
Hello and welcome to Bombastik Broadcasting with Kat, Kim, and Sue.
And as you know, here at Bombastik Broadcasting, we believe on shining the light on all things bombastic and illuminating folks who are stoking the fire in their souls, one podcast at a time. So, yay, here we are today with our guest, Sarah Tye, who we love very much. Her business is Spirit Journey Collective, and her goal is to empower and reconnect people with their own authenticity. As she describes it, those times when you feel lost, she helps you to get back to that anchored place. And she does this through tarot and spiritual channeling in a really unique way. So welcome, Sarah.
thank you. I'm so excited to be back here.
So, Sarah, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about how you got into tarot reading?
Yeah, I'd love to. So my journey with tarot has been a long one. I started back in high school. So I've been reading since about 16 years old. And I mean, initially it was just for fun. It was just kind of something I did with my friends. And really, I grew up very Christian. So it was also my way of rebelling as well when I started asking just the bigger questions that I couldn't get answered in the faith that I was brought up in. So tarot was kind of like I'm going to go do this. And so I always had a tarot deck on hand for years. I mean, it was just something I'd go to for myself here and there or with my friends, but I never really saw it as the medicinal tool that it is until about 7 or 8 years ago. And that's when everything changed for me. So that was really, I was in a really difficult situation in my marriage where my then husband was struggling with addiction. And I didn't even know this until later on, but he had these episodes, these very scary episodes where he would lose his temper. And so I remember struggling with whether or not I should leave. And I had a 6-month-old daughter, and it was one of those things where I was just like, do I stay or do I go? And of course, being a stay-at-home mom, I was like, I don't have the means, right? And so this one morning after my husband went to work, I got woken up to my dogs going ballistic at my back sliding door, which is strange because I was on the 2nd floor apartment building. So I didn't know what they were going crazy over. Walked over to look, and there was a raven sitting on the balcony. And it was just looking at me and completely unbothered. And my biggest dog was a Springer Spaniel. So she's like a 50-pound dog. And this raven didn't look bothered at all by it, clawing at the window and everything. And I want to say it was probably like 10 seconds, but it felt so much longer. It just sat there and stared at me. And then it flew away. And of course I thought, oh, well, what does it mean when you see a raven? And interestingly enough, it paired perfectly with the death card in tarot. So the raven represents the phoenix. It's very similar. It's the life and it's the death and the rebirth. And so I thought, and it's all about big changes and new chapters. So that's what prompted me to pull out my tarot deck for the very first time for real guidance. I pulled out my deck and I asked, should I stay or should I go? And I'll never forget the answer I got as far as the outcome. The outcome, if I stayed, was the devil, which basically meant it was not going to get better. The pattern was going to continue. The cycle of abuse was going to continue. And it's like at this point, you're choosing to stay in discord, right? If I left, the outcome was the death card, which perfectly correlated with seeing the raven, maybe 20 minutes earlier. And so that was my first aha moment of, oh my gosh, there's something really special here. And so I turned to my deck for the next several years just for myself, especially on this new journey as a single parent and single mother and all of that. And then in 2020, that's when I really started finding my spirituality. And I think that's what I was missing before. I knew after the consistency and the relevancy that tarot was something really special, but I didn't know what to plug it into. Then I found my spirituality, started doing serious healing work and shadow work. And then right around, I want to say mid 2020, I started asking, what's my purpose? Because I was hearing all these podcasts and these interviews about people who found their purpose. And I was like, oh, I want one.
Yeah,
And
right? That's so true.
and so
That's
I just started
great.
asking, what's my purpose? And tarot kept coming to me, which was really funny because it was the one thing I didn't want. And so
Yeah.
I said no to it
That's
for a
funny.
good 6 months. Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't want to be seen as a tarot reader. I didn't want people to know about it. I was really just afraid to embrace it and go for it. And then I unexpectedly lost one of my main sources of income. And I still remember I was like panicking and but I was also trying to learn this idea of everything happens for you, not to you. So I was trying to like balance the panic and the trust, right? And the surrender.
Right.
And like clear as day in that moment, I heard, go work on your business. And I knew exactly what that meant. It was the tarot business that I've been throwing on the back burner for a while. And I just thought, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to try this. And honestly, ever since I found reading professionally and reading for others and seeing the impact it's made, it's been such a journey, and it's one that I, am so grateful that found me.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing.
For me, it was really just the fact that it felt like I found myself in it.
Mm.
It was the first time I ever felt like I was good at something, and not just good at something, but I really enjoyed it. Every time I sit to read with someone or read for someone, it's hard to explain, but it's like I get plugged into something and like a higher power of some sort, and it's like a coming home feeling. I just get that plugged in feeling, and I just get to start talking, which is so funny. On a side note, like in my astrology, Mercury is in Gemini, which is that it's all about communication. So it's so funny that like when I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why talking is such a great medium for me. So when I do my readings, and then it sounds weird, but I just start talking and the things just start flowing out of my mouth that they need to hear. And so how I knew that that was my purpose is it just felt so genuine and so authentic. And it was a combination of, I really love it. And like, I would do it all day long for free if I could, you know what I mean? If I didn't have like bills
Yes.
to pay and whatever else, like I love it that much. And I can see the difference it's making for people. So those two
That's
things
amazing.
have really made that clear. And I'll say too that something else that I think is important to know is that purpose also it evolves. So lately I've been feeling like there's more I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't know yet what that means, but I do think that it's good to know that just because you found it once, it doesn't mean it's always going to be that thing. It could evolve and morph into something else as you grow and evolve as well.
Beautiful note. Yeah.
That is lovely. Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
explained. And you probably get energized from it as well. I've heard gifts also make you feel energized, right? Skills are things that you might be really great at, like accounting, but it maybe not isn't is your passion. So I bet that it's your purpose and your gift.
I want to speak to that though, because yes, it does. But if I do like an event, for instance, which I do events for like, corporate, or I've been hired for all sorts of different events. But in those circumstances where it's literally back to back to back to back, because this is energy work, there are moments where it's like, it's super draining as well. So if I'm just doing it like, at a great pace, yes, 100%. Like the energy's there. I love it. I can't wait to sit down with the next person. Like if it's more like private sessions where I have it spaced out more in that way where I could do self-care in the middle. But if it's like an event, it can get very draining. So I do think that it's good to know both sides of it. Like, yes, it energizes, but I also am human and I need
Yes.
that. I need that
Of course.
downtime. And if I don't, sometimes like at the end of events, there are times where like I'm just walking out of there almost like so depleted. I mean, I loved every minute of it, but now it's time to go lay down and like not do anything for the rest of the night.
Yeah, of course.
Self-care
That's
is
terrible.
real.
Yeah. And that's kind of amazing. Picked up on all the signs too. Like if you'd ignored the raven, where would you be now? It's kind of crazy.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because like I didn't even realize that was my origin story probably until like a year ago, because I never really even I mean, it didn't even occur to me until a few months ago that the Raven and the Death card, which the Death card was the one that really pushed me to action when I did finally leave. That Death card is all about new beginnings, new chapters, and that was the thing that made me go, okay. And I already knew it was time to leave. So it wasn't, it was scary to do it, but that was my push. That was my higher power push of, okay, I'm going to do this. But it wasn't until about 2 or 3 months ago when I realized that the raven and the death card were so perfectly synced. I didn't know that. I didn't like put that together until recently. And then even thinking back to, it wasn't until someone asked me, oh, did something with tarot, what was the turning point? And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, that was it. And so, yeah, it wasn't, and it was a journey. So it wasn't even something I noticed. I'm grateful for the raven because it got me out of a dangerous situation. Like that's how I attributed it for the longest time. But now I can look back and say, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this. That was the start of everything, because that was my journey back to myself initially.
That's awesome. Can you remember your first paying customer?
Oh, that's a great
There's
question.
a
Yeah.
Yeah.
question.
Actually, yes, I can. She was one of the people who I actually did a practice reading on, because before I went live, I just posted, I mean, this was hard for me to do, so I was already scared to like tell the world,
Yes.
but I just posted on my Facebook. I'm like, I'm thinking about doing tarot readings. Does anyone want one for free? I'm just looking for feedback. And so I had a few people who I didn't even know very well. They were like acquaintances, which was
Oh,
perfect
nice.
because, it gave me so much more confirmation since I didn't know anything going on in their lives. And so I gave these readings, and one of them, she actually, not only did she pay me, like she literally, after I sent her the thing, she said, hey, I would really love to send you something as a thank you because that was so spot on. Can I send you like a Venmo, like $10 or something? And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. But she did come back after I went live and she ordered a reading from me. So that was
Oh,
really
that's
cool. And we're
great.
like, old school friends. So we were in choir together. We weren't like super close, but that was just cool to have some kind of support from someone who sort of knew me, but saw the
Yes.
value in what I was offering. And that
Yeah.
was really neat.
Very positive feedback. That's fabulous.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And just back to what we were talking about earlier, there's a saying that says, take the first step and the road unfolds or whatever, right? And I remember on our last podcast, you said something about, don't worry about being scared, just do it anyway. And you did that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It makes a difference because every time I was afraid of something, I realized most of my fear was just the fear of the fear. It didn't actually play out the way I thought it would. So like when I first
Right.
went live, I was so afraid I'd get backlash from like friends or family that didn't maybe support me. And I never got any backlash. And then same thing with when I started doing like farmers market events, I was truly terrified someone was going to like come up and attack me. Like maybe not
Oh,
physically, but
wow.
verbally attack
Yeah.
me.
Oh,
And no one ever did. And so
Oh,
and
that's
it's interesting
awesome.
when I do farmers markets, people do avoid my booth very
That's so
obviously,
funny.
you know, but I think there's still that stigma, but I didn't get
Mm.
any of that verbal like abuse I was afraid of. And then the people who meant to sit with me were the ones that found me. So that's why I would show up, is okay, those that are meant to sit with me are going to come sit with me, and those who don't understand yet are going to avoid me. And that's okay, because at least I'm not getting attacked for it, right? So
right.
all the
Totally.
things that I was most afraid of happening never really panned out that way. So I've learned since then that it's better to just do the thing, and most likely whatever you're afraid of is not really as big as it seems or will even pan out the way you think it will.
Gosh, I love
Yes.
that. Have you ever heard that FEAR? False evidence
Mm-hmm.
appearing real, which is so true. And I remember hearing what you fear, do next. And I guess you take that all in context, right? but awesome. Just take little steps and that fear does kind of dissipate.
And I would love to add another acronym to what you shared,
Oh,
because I
good.
do like the false evidence appearing real, but the one that I like that's a positive spin on it is face everything and rise.
Oh,
Oh, bless.
Face everything and rise. Oh, that's beautiful. So tell us too. So because you do kind of talking about that, this was so refreshing when I met you the first time. Because there is that like taboo about it, and there is that fear surrounding it sometimes. And I too went to Catholic school. There's some things that you're like, is it good? Is it bad? Like, am I playing with a Ouija board? And it's not like that. It's very different the way you approach it, and the guidance that you are helping people get in touch with their higher selves. So can you talk about the stigma around it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there is so much stigma around it, unfortunately. Although it's so interesting, when I do paid events, people are lining up out the door. When I set up at a farmer's market, people still avoid me. So it's like if it's free, people are still curious, but if it's not, people like are afraid. But yeah, so how I like to explain tarot, because I don't think it's the cards themselves. I mean, the cards are beautiful symbolism. It's a beautiful tool, but I do think it's just paper ultimately, right? It's the intention behind it. So when I do readings, I personally believe I'm connecting with a higher power, universe, God. Although there's no religious ties to this, so I can sit with a Christian, I can sit with, anyone with any belief system. But my belief is that I'm tapping into their higher self or higher power, and that what they need to hear is what's going to come through my mouth. So it's the intention of they're showing up with the intention of guidance, and I'm showing up with the intention of being a vessel. And I believe that that's personally how it works, because I also think we're all energetically connected, and I think all religions speak to that on some level. I think we're all ultimately one. So it's like they're showing up for themselves. I'm just kind of the sounding board or the interpreter.
That's really cool. Sarah, tell us a little bit about the cards, the actual cards. Is there like a good bunch anyway, go ahead.
So there's 78 cards in a tarot deck. So they come, this is my deck. See?
Wow.
It's pretty thick too.
A lot of cards.
Yes. Big cards. They're big. And so they're broken down into two arcanas. One is the major arcana, and that's where you're going to find cards like the Death, the Lovers, the Moon, the Sun, the Devil, etc. That's where you're going to find those hard hitter cards. And then we have the minor arcana, which is suits, which is also very similar to a deck of playing cards. So fun fact, I can do a reading with a deck of playing cards.
Really?
That's
you
awesome.
can use that for that same purpose. You just wouldn't have the trump cards like the major arcana in there, but playing cards, they're suits, right? And then you have ace all the way up to knight, king, and queen. And then with tarot, it's just slightly different. There's 4 suits, and it starts with ace and it goes all the way up to king and queen. But the only difference is that they have 2 others in there. They have page, and then they have the knight. So it's like 1 extra card basically. And so the suits, it's kind of cool too. They're broken down based off of like astrology in a sense. You know how in astrology there's 4 elements. So each suit is an element, and it also represents a certain aspect of like humanity, what we're dealing with. So cups is water. Water is related to the water sign, and that's all about emotions and connection and feeling our feelings. And then you have the swords, which is connected to the air. And that one's all about communication, the mind, the narrative, how we're viewing the situation. And then we have the wands, and that's connected to fire, and that's the passionate, creative, action-based type of energy. And then you finally have the pentacles, which is earthy, and that one's all about the tangible. And that could be money, it could be things happening in the real world, but it's very tangible, practical energy. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of a rundown of the deck itself.
So you keep your deck of cards whole, right? So somebody could have all their cards be cups, or all their cards could be swords.
It doesn't happen too often, but yeah, sometimes it's a bunch of swords, or there's more of a theme of swords, or more of a theme of cups. That's the beauty of tarot, is there's so many nuanced ways that it can turn up. And so when you read, for instance, most of the time you use a tarot spread. Not always. You can always do it intuitively, and I kind of go back and forth, but I do have a spread that I use pretty often. And so the spread is like each placement has a meaning, and then the cards themselves have a meaning. So when you read, it's a combination of the placement and the card meaning, and then any intuitive messages I get in between that. But yeah, so every theme is different, and it always manages to lend exactly to be what they need to hear right now. It's like like for instance, when I do my higher self messages, where it's just they don't necessarily ask a question, but I just pull cards on what they need to know. It almost always lands and ends up being something they need to know right now, because it's something they're currently going through. And it's like, I see that over and over again.
Do you feel like in a way it taps into what we know? When you do use tool like tarot, and then you combine that with the spiritual channeling, do you think people do tap into what they know is right? Like even in your instance, you probably knew somewhere deep inside that you got to leave that situation because it's not going to get better, right? So do you think there is an element of tapping into ourselves that way?
Yes, 100%. I hear more often than not, I knew that. Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about this the other day. Yeah. Or this is where I was leaning towards, but I wasn't sure. I mean, I hear some form of that over and over again. So that's why I like to say it's about me empowering them, because it wouldn't be confirmational or even validational if they didn't already have some sense of direction before they came. It was just more like they didn't know which one was the best one for them, but they kind of were already playing with some feelings and then got overwhelmed because they had options. And I've heard a lot of people tell me this in various ways. When they get a reading with me, it's like I shine a light on what they really need to know. And it's almost like it gets rid of all the fluff and all the overthinking and all the stuff that can get in the way. And it's just like, this right here, this is it. And so, and I'll even preface too, is sometimes I have people come to me with actual questions of, should I do A or should I do B? You know, like, should I leave this job for this job, or this person for this person, or move here or move here? And so it's really important though to know that, like, it'll shine the light on what you most need to know, but it's not going to tell you what to do. So even when people ask me, should I do A or should I do B? I'll read them the energy of A, and then I'll read them the energy of B. And then it's up to them to decide which one feels the best. Because even though there's usually one that's more ideal than the other, you know, they still might need to take the non-ideal option based on whatever journey they're on. They may still need to learn another lesson. So it's not my job to really tell them, oh, you should do this. I might tell them, this is what I'm, you know, this energetically feels a little lighter than this other option, which I feel would be a little bit more of a internal work and healing. But, you know, again, which one do they need? Which one is their soul really needing? And really being able to feel into each option. So I do think that that's important to take into factor as well.
Yeah, that is almost an element of coaching too, right? Like, because a good coach makes things really clear, because we can't always see. Sometimes we're so deep inside of ourselves.
So also, like, two tarot readers could look at the same cards and get slightly different reads, right? Just pick up on different energies and things.
Yeah, I would say, and it also, the cards themselves have so many different meanings. If you were to try and learn tarot, like, there is just, each card can have various meanings, especially when you start looking at, well, versus love or versus work or versus this, you know. And it's interesting. Before I started reading professionally, so literally up until probably 2 or 3 months before I started reading professionally, I was still using my book that came with my deck. And I was also still using Google. And I was just kind of feeling into which one was speaking to me, which, you know, interpretation was speaking to me in that moment. And so when I was kind of going through that period of, like, I don't want to do tarot, but then I was still kind of on the side investigating it, but not really saying yes to it, right? I did take a tarot course by someone named Lindsay Mack, and she's also a podcaster and just an amazing tarot reader. And she coined something called soul tarot. And so her interpretations are not, they have a basis of being really similar to the traditional tarot, but they're a little different. And her interpretations, just like, it was like imprinted on me. I mean, within the first 2 days of reading it, I had it pretty much memorized. And then from there, it just kind of started speaking to me through my intuition. And so what I've learned through that experience is you can't just go to tarot school, you know, take a course, like, and like look at all these different meanings and then just only go by the book. You know what I mean? There's so many different aspects of it. So one reader might pick up this and another reader might pick up something else. But usually, I will say, most of the time, there's a theme between readers. So if one reader reads for you, there's probably, and another reader reads for you for the same question, there's probably going to be a really similar message. Because I'll have someone tell me that too, like, oh my gosh, I had another reader tell me this exact same thing a year ago. You know?
Oh, that's
Whoa.
So it might not be exactly the same, but the energy tends to be similar. They just might be able to pick up on different aspects or areas of it.
okay. And then tell us about have you got like a roadmap for people or alignment?
I do. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you asked me about this. So I do. I offer something called the Alignment Project, which is very new. Well, I guess it's not so new anymore. I did launch it in June. It's still new to me though. And it's basically taking a tarot reading and making it much more tangible. So someone who would come to me for an alignment project, I've had people come to me for parenting. I've had people come to me for career or just generally wanting some guidance. But what we do is we do a full reading about whatever the question is. And I always like to either, if it's more generalized, okay, what do we need to know? So we have some kind of a focus point, or it could be any area that you feel like, you know, you're struggling in and you don't know how to get through it. So we do a whole reading around that. And then from there, we break down actionable steps to help them move forward and past it. And so I actually created a book, which I don't have up here to show you, but I created a book where every single card has actionable steps listed. and they're all different because we're all different people. So some
Yes.
actionable steps like journaling won't work for someone as well as like doing affirmations, or there's just different exercises for
Wow.
each card, and then plus a bunch of journal prompts. So while through the reading, I start to make a list of like the cards that are jumping out at me as these are the action cards. These are the ones that they really need to hone in on to get where they want to go. And then we go through those cards, and I read to them the actionable steps I have listed, and then they choose which one they're most drawn to. Because I want to do it that way too, because you want them to pick something that they'll stick to, right? That feels
Sure.
good to them. That,
Yes.
yeah. And so then we create these actionable steps. I send them a PDF of the cards that were pulled, of the actionable steps, the journal prompts, and then I also give them a printable PDF where they can put it up where it's like a bite-sized version of the steps. So they have like something to look at every day, and then they have a packet of like the details.
I remember
Wow.
this and I love this. I'm so glad that you said that, because when
Yeah.
you say action step, my Aries is like, game on, because I think it's one thing to get the information because it's hard to figure out what's wrong, or maybe to clarify which direction to go in to get unstuck in some ways, because we all have those moments of stuck. But I love your roadmap because so often you don't know where to pivot. And once you start that motion, that process of, moving, then you can really get somewhere. So I love it. I think that is so brilliant. What do you charge for something like that?
So for my lemon project, that's 125, and it's a 60-hour session.
A what? A
Wow.
6-hour session?
I'm sorry, 60-minute. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. So 1 hour session.
girl, you need to
60 minutes.
raise your price.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, whoa, you're selling yourself short there, girl.
But honestly, what a great gift! What a great thing! Do you find that there's some people more than others that want to align with that?
I would say those that are really into self-development, spiritual, like just trying to find themselves or reconnect with something, like those that are really wanting those deep answers,
Yeah.
And I also love that you pointed out, how sometimes the information, just with a basic reading, it can be an overwhelm too, because sometimes you get all the information and it lands and it makes sense. And then you're like, now what?
Now what?
Now you've just got a bunch of information, and that's great. The information and insight is hands down 100% like needed. But sometimes I always felt like I wish I could do more. And I think that that's where the alignment project stemmed from, was because now I can actually offer something that they can do something with. And so like an example, when I did it for myself, because of course, I had to
Of course.
do it for myself a couple
Of
times.
course. Yes.
One of the prompts that was just like, oh my gosh, was writing a letter to the part of me that like to be in control, and
Ah,
it's just like things like that just they're outside the box, but they get you to kind of different ways to work past trouble or struggles and obstacles that you have.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, get in touch with your leader, right?
I need to write to that guy.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
Awesome.
that's a great.
That
You
can
need
be
to calm down.
Well, that can also look like, writing a letter to your younger self, or to your inner child, or, the part of you that's most scared of whatever's holding you back. I mean, there's so many different aspects of that, but there are different. So that's just an example of, one of the steps that might be offered.
That's really
That's
cool.
amazing.
I love that.
When you say like writing a letter to your younger self, it makes me think, do you ever work with people that have regret? Like when you get stuck in like a place where you almost can't forgive yourself for your life turning this way instead of that way, and you have to get back on course. So have you ever done a reading for someone in that situation where they hold a lot of like pain or anger or need some healing?
Actually, it's funny you asked me that, because I did an email reading fairly recently where their question was really basic. It was just like, and I remember I was like, I wonder what this is pertaining to, because it just seems so general. But again, I just tapped in and did my thing. But the question was, how is my past affecting my present? I loved the question. It was just like, wow, that's so profound. It's just, I know as I was doing it, I'm like, what area of their life are they asking about? But it's not for me to, there's a reason why they asked it that way. So I just tapped in and did the reading, and everything I got was basically saying they were living in the past. they felt like they missed out on something, that there was a lot of regrets, which was causing them to not move forward out of like fear. And a lot of it was worth too, because I felt like they felt like they couldn't move forward because they missed out on something. And now because it's not there anymore, now they're without, kind of a thing, that lack mentality thinking and stagnation. So I mean, with that one, it wasn't an alignment project related per se, but when we create the actionable steps, we do that together. So, you know, if that one was calling to them, like, oh, maybe I need to write a letter to my younger self that I'm okay, even though I didn't take that opportunity. You know, I can list all the ways that I'm still okay, and now we can still move forward, so that maybe that part of you doesn't, you know, continue to needle in the back of your mind, for instance. So that would be one way you could use it, but it would only be if that person who I was offering that suggestion to, that was like, oh, okay, that's speaking to me. Because if it doesn't, if it feels too painful, then it's best to pick something else, you know, at that point. But it's important to know that we're kind of co-creating the roadmap together, me and the client. So it's not just me telling them what to do, it's me giving them options and then leading into what feels the best for them.
Love that, Sarah. Love
That's
that.
so great.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sarah, I want to ask you, if you if I come to you for a reading, you're tapping into my higher power. So do you not need to be with me in order to do the energy thing? So how does it work over email?
That is an excellent question. So it's really, like I said, it all comes back to intention. I think email readings for me are like one of my most validating as a reader, because most of the time, like for instance, with that one question I got, I don't see this person. I don't see them. I don't talk to them. There's literally nothing more than the question that they sent me. And then I'll respond, and then, you know, usually not all the time. I don't always get feedback. I just assume no feedback is good feedback.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
if it's an issue, because
absolutely.
they always get, with email readings, everyone gets two clarifier questions. So they absolutely can reach out and be like, hey, I'm a little confused about this, or I don't understand this. And I always encourage that if they need it. But yeah, sometimes I'll get the feedback and it's from someone, again, I never spoke to, there's no actual live communication. And yet they're telling me how much it landed and how helpful it was. So I really believe it's all about the intention. If you're coming with the intention of, I need guidance, and I'm showing that intention of, okay, I'm going to be this vessel for this person and share what's coming through for them, I think that's all it takes. I mean, it's so funny because before I did readings, like professionally, I don't think I would have understood how that would work. I think I would have questioned the whole thing. But now that I've done it so many times, I've learned that, oh no, this is good. Like it's continuously being what everyone else needs. And I don't need to connect with them in that way to make it a quality reading. It's all about that intention and the energy.
That is incredible. That's a gift and a half, man.
It is. Well, and I have to ask this now, because gifts, you know, can be double-edged swords. Have you ever encountered somebody whose energy was just plain dark, and you were like, I don't think I can do that with you? Or does that not happen because your intentions are so high?
I wouldn't say dark. I thankfully haven't really come across that. And I think it is partly because there's certain things I just don't mess with, you know what I mean? And so I think I just avoid that. But I have had clients that weren't really aligned with me. So that would be more what it is. Like, for instance, I've had someone who continuously was asking about an ex, but like asking really superficial, like, oh, is he watching my stories? Oh, well, or he's watching my stories. Why is he watching my stories? You know, and those kind of questions are just very surface and not aligned with what I'm here to do. So I would say that there have been times where I've worked with, you know, that, until eventually, like, I think it was just, they needed, and which was always interesting because I always try and bring back to them when I do talk to someone like that. I always try and bring it back to, let's focus on you. Let's focus on what you can do, because this person is out of your control. You know,
Right.
And, you know, sometimes it does lead to some harsh truths that they don't want to hear, and then they eventually fall off anyway. But those are probably the most uncomfortable that I've been in, because those kinds of questions are really hard for me because I just don't care for them, you know?
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't really had any readings with anyone that's made me scared or anything like that.
That's great.
Good. Yeah.
And then, Sarah, you're a podcaster too, huh?
I am, yes, which I would love to have you three on. I know we talked about that before, but I would still love that.
How
Okay,
fun.
we would still love to do that.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, I wonder how we'll be as guests.
I would love
Rowdy.
Rowdy, we're gonna be
Rowdy.
bombastic.
Yes.
Well, I've never had more than one guest at once, so that would definitely be a newer experience, but I would love it. So my podcast is called Spirit Journey Collective, and it's actually pretty similar to what you guys are doing. I'm interviewing different people about their purpose and how they feel like they found it, their journey up to it, what they're doing now to help change the world in their own way with their gifts. And then I also do monthly collective readings as well. So between the 1st and the 5th of the month, I'll drop a actual energy reading for the collective that I'll put on my podcast too.
That's cool.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yay.
So if somebody wants to send you an email question, so you said that person just asked you that random question. So there's not really any lead up or hi, blah, blah. It's just kind of a question.
Yeah. So they can order, so clients order through my website. You can just go on and you can order an email reading through there. And so when you order the reading, there's a section for what would you like to focus your reading on. And sometimes I'll get like a whole paragraph. Sometimes it's just a question. That just depends on what they want to share with me before I do the reading. But there is a space for them to explain more if they wanted to. Or they could just ask the question that they're, wanting to know. Either way, it doesn't really change the quality of it, though.
Okay.
I did a reading with Sarah, and it was really, really awesome. And I did it a few months ago, and she just gave me options for if you say yes, this, and if you say no, this, and what feels good to you, and everything was super dead on. And I was like, yeah, I already knew that. That was great. It's great to have it confirmed, though, because I think, we go with our intuition, but then we doubt ourselves. So we're like, wait, am I doing the right thing? Whereas you could just go with your intuition, because
isn't that funny? And that's such a great point too, because so many people are held back by like, that total confirmation. It almost reminds me of like a jury. You know how you have to be beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, sure.
That's right.
And
no, you did right.
Right. And sometimes our fear will speak to us, or it'll hold us back, or like when the time is right, maybe you'll pivot. But I think I'd want to say to anybody who's listening, if you are in that place where you feel like you've been stagnant for a while, I would encourage you to make an appointment with Sarah, because why wait?
No doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sarah, the best way
for that.
Yeah. The best way to get a hold of you is just on your website, right? Just go to Spirit Journey Collective.
SpiritJourneyCollective.com. You can get all of my services through there. The Alignment Project, live sessions with me, or the email reading. And then I'm also on Instagram. That's probably the most active social place that I'm on right now. I technically have a Facebook too, so you can find me on Facebook and TikTok, but Instagram's really the place that I am most active. And then as far as my podcast, you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, and YouTube.
Okay, great.
Under Spirit Journey Collective.
Yes, same name. I just decided to keep it all uniform.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a really cool name. Is there anything sort of behind it, or just you like the words?
Actually, that's a great question. So my previous business name was Journey Through Tarot, and it was my business name all the way up to the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, like January 12th or something like that, I had this massive spiritual download that just came out of the blue. Like it was funny because I was supposed to be doing this tarot event, and I was like waiting to the last second before it fell through. It was at a university, so there's a bunch of red tape I had to get through, and which I eventually was able to go back and do in there. But before that, like it just, getting me in as like an employee or, like it was a whole mess. But I remember like once I officially realized, okay, I'm not going, I was like kind of disappointed, and I'm just kind of sitting in my room like, well, I guess I'm not going today. And then all of a sudden I just had these ideas just like racing through my mind, to the point where I just like grabbed my computer and just started typing because I needed to like get it out. And it was crazy because it went from first person to third person. And basically I accidentally ended up automatic writing. And what I got from that was, you need to start a podcast. You need to change your business name because it's keeping you in a box. Because Journey Through Tarot, because I kept feeling up to that point, like I was kind of feeling this feeling like I need to do something more, but I don't know what that means yet. And so then I heard, you need to change your business name. You need to start a podcast. You need to kind of create a community. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
So it was really
That's
just me
amazing.
obeying. And so Spirit Journey Collective was what came from that. And then something kind of crazy to tie into that. I also, in that automatic writing session, it wasn't that day. I think it was the next day I tried automatic writing again, and I completely forgot about it. Like, I didn't even remember doing it, and I just must have saved it. Well, fast forward to March. I want to say it was March that I suddenly got the download of the alignment project of creating actionable steps for every single card. So it became like this project I just was immersed in for a couple of weeks, just going through each card and figuring out like different actionable steps and journal prompts. And right after I finished it, I found the automatic writing that I forgot about, and it literally was talking about the project. That's how I got the name, the Alignment Project. So it was talking about me finding ways to help empower people, in a tangible way. I forgot about it, and I found it after I created it, and that's where I
That's
got the name, the
amazing.
Alignment Project. So yeah, that was wild. So
good.
yeah, I know that.
That's
So
awesome.
that's kind of the backstory of my name. It's a little, it's a lot, but.
No, it's fabulous. I love that. That's
Great.
awesome.
When I hear you say things like that, I'm like, oh, as a creative person, I'm like, oh, have I been lazy? Have I not been listening to my inner guide? Do you ever not show up? Like, should we all be disciplined and have those journals every day, or how do you find it best to tap into your higher power like that?
That's actually, it's so funny you asked me that, because I'm currently on that journey myself. Like, when I plug in to read for people, that's when I feel plugged in. On my own journey, I'm like, huh? Like, I'm trying to figure it out. And I think that that's all of us. It's really about finding what works, right? So for some people, journaling is really, really good. That's why I have different options in my prompt, because in the actionable steps, because not everyone is good at journaling or can be consistent with journaling, even if they want to be, right? That's me. I'm speaking about me. So I think it's important to find what works. And so if that's meditating, if that's going through, there's some people who meditate by walking. They put headphones on, they listen to a meditation, and they walk instead of sitting still. So I think, for me personally, it's been, because I'm also a single parent. So like for me, and a business owner. So for me, it's like, I've been feeling it too. I just keep feeling like you need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to slow down. So I'm like working on incorporating, okay, how can I not do my day job, like work my day job's pretty flexible, so how can I work my day job around my business, around my spiritual growth, and figure out how to slow down. And so I think that we all have those journeys, and they all look a little bit different. It's just a matter of actually carving out the space to do it. I think that that's really what everyone should do in their own way, whether it's 10 minutes in the morning of meditating or journaling or going for a walk and just being by yourself for a little while. But there's so many different, or creative outlets, if you like to draw or write, or like poetry or something. Like, there's so many different ways, but I think it's just about making the commitment to yourself in some small capacity daily if you can. But it doesn't have to be massive. It could just be finding some way to plug in with yourself, kind of like setting an intention, like you guys do in the beginning of your podcast. It's that same kind of energy.
Yes, yes. I love that energy.
Well, do you have someone who reads for you? So, because we can't always use our superpowers on ourselves, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely have a plethora of different people that I go to.
Good.
Some are friends, where we'll like exchange readings, and then I have one girl that I see pretty frequently. She's on an app called Purple Ocean, but she's been really spot on at helping me like see through things. Because I will say, as a reader, I can read for myself, but depending on the situation, I'll read and I'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then that's it. Like, when someone else reads for you, I think it sticks a little bit better sometimes, because
Yes.
it's not just especially when you already know it. It's kind of like, I already know that, But when someone else says it to you, who shouldn't know that but does, it's kind of like spirit's like, hello, this is really for you, do something with it,
Right.
So that, or like sometimes even as a reader, you can get too caught up in a situation where you're too close to it, and now you're trying to see what you want to see versus what's actually there for you to see. So I think that there's two different reasons why, but yeah, I have people I reach out to.
Nice.
That's great. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on our show. Yeah, fantastic to see you again. At Bombastik Broadcasting, we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. So we're going to put your links below, and invite people to check out your Instagram and then your other social media. Yeah, thanks again. You're awesome.
Thank you. You ladies are awesome. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm so honored that you invited me back. And yeah, thank you so much. It's a
Thank
great
you,
time.
Sarah.
Yay.
That's so sweet. We can't wait to be on your podcast.
I know.
Yes.
So fun. So until that time, everyone, thank you for joining us. Be bright, be bountiful, and be fearless.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding. Wake up. All is aligning. All you gotta do. Wake up. My man Mo said that the reason that the world fucked up is cause everybody lazy. Positivity is corny to them, but they still gon' complain about the bad going on. Shit crazy. So I just had to drop a little project. I don't know what the object is, but this feels good. If you too hood for the good vibe, sorry I ain't got nothing for you. Why should I?
You shouldn't. We out here doing the things that y'all wouldn't. Life could be a sweet ride, proof is in the pudding. These guys with the weak vibes, I'll show them where to put it. Down bad, I was looking for the answer. Mind all mad, taking over like a cancer. Canceled the sub plans, came from up above. Told me everything but doing, showing love, and I gotta
wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding. Wake up. All is aligning. All you gotta do. Wake up.
I've been getting so high, head up in the clouds. I don't ever wanna come down, but I gotta
wake up.
Ain't enough time to be down. Bust a smile, cause it's yet another day that I'm allowed to
wake up.
Feeling blessed to be alive, man. Not long till we thriving. Take the time to remind yourself that it all starts inside yourself. Most.
Wake up feeling stuck every day, then you gotta realize that it's all in your mindset. Read about that meditation, you go get around to it, you just haven't had the time. Yeah, I bet. Best thing that you could invest in is you. Could have the results or could have the excuse. Only one life, so take care of what you choose. And I ain't preaching, I'm just telling you the truth. Wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding. Wake up. All is aligning. All you gotta do.